Chief Desmond Adeyemi had seen many things in his 60 years on Earth, but he had never cried like this. He sat in his private study inside his huge white mansion in Lekki. The room was quiet, cold, and rich with the smell of leather and old books. Family awards lined the shelves. A big painting of his late father hung on the wall behind him, and in front of him, sitting on the edge of a chair, was a man who looked like life had beaten him again and again. Nelson. His ash t-shirt was torn at the neck, his jeans were faded and dirty, his hair was rough and overgrown, his beard thick, tangled, and uncombed. His hands, though calloused and stained with old grease, were folded politely on his laps. "They said it was my fault," Nelson was saying quietly. "They blamed me for the fire, the cars, the company, everything burned. I lost it all in one night." Desmond's fingers tightened around his expensive handkerchief. He had invited this man into his mansion as a beggar who fixed his daughter's car. But now, as he listened, something inside his chest was breaking. "You owned the company?" Desmond whispered. "You were not just a mechanic there." Nelson lifted his tired eyes to meet the billionaire's gaze. "I built it from nothing, sir," he said, "and I lost it. In one night." Desmond swallowed hard. His throat hurt. His eyes were wet. How could a man who once controlled millions now look like this? How could somebody with so much knowledge, so much skill, be standing on the street in rags, begging for scraps? Nelson took a deep breath, as if he was about to tell the worst part. "Sir, there is something else I need to tell you," he said. "About that night, and about why I am really on the street." Desmond's heart pounded. He leaned forward. "What is it?" he asked. Nelson opened his mouth to speak, and suddenly everything pulled back to earlier that same afternoon. To the moment it all began, right in front of the mansion gate. The sun was high and hot over Lagos, painting the street in bright gold. Sonia Adeyemi gripped the steering wheel of her black Range Rover and frowned. The SUV had just jerked, coughed, and died. Right in front of her father's black mansion gate, on a clean, quiet street filled with rich houses, palm trees, and shiny cars, her own engine chose that very moment to give up. "You have got to be kidding me," she muttered. Sonia was 25, tall and dark-skinned, with smooth, glowing skin and neat hair packed into a bun. She wore a beautiful Ankara gown with bold colors and gold jewelry that caught the sunlight each time she moved. She looked like everything in her life was perfect, except right now. Right now, she felt stuck. She turned the key again. The engine only made a weak sound, then silence. "Not today, please," she whispered, slumping back into the seat. She had an important meeting to attend. It was with a charity group she supported, something she was proud of. She wanted to prove to her father that she was more than just the billionaire's daughter. She wanted to arrive early, not stand in front of the house with a dead engine like a beginner. She grabbed her phone quickly. "Let me just call Uche," she said to herself. Uche was the family mechanic. He knew every car in their compound. He knew every sound, every scratch, every problem. The phone rang, and rang, and rang. Then, call failed. Sonia stared at her screen in disbelief. "No network," she groaned. She tried again, same result. Sweat began to form on her forehead, even though the SUV's AC was still blowing weakly. Cars passed by slowly on the street, some drivers glancing at her and the big black gate behind. A few pedestrians stared, whispering to each other. Some smiled the way people smile when rich people have small problems. Sonia rubbed her forehead. "Okay, think," she told herself. "You can handle this. You are not a baby." She opened the door, stepped out, and walked to the front of the SUV. The bonnet still shone under the Lagos sun. She stared at it like it could talk. Maybe it was the battery. Maybe it was fuel. Maybe it was something. She sighed. She did not know. She just knew it was not moving, and she needed to move. "Madam," a voice said softly behind her, "I can help you." Sonia froze. She turned around slowly. Standing a few feet away from her was a man who looked like he had been dragged through life and left on the side of the road. He wore a tattered ash t-shirt with small holes near the shoulder. His jeans were old and stained with mud. His hair was disheveled and unkempt. His beard was wild, overgrown, and tangled. His slippers were thin and almost broken. In his eyes, though, there was something strange. Not madness, not begging. Something sharper, like a mind that was still awake. He held a small nylon bag in one hand, the kind people use to collect coins or leftover food. But he did not stretch it toward her. He only pointed gently at the car. "I can help you," he repeated. "With the engine." Sonia blinked. At first, she wanted to say, "No, thank you." This was her father's new SUV. It was expensive, powerful, and important. She could not just let a random stranger in torn clothes touch it. But she looked again at his eyes. There was confidence there. No shaking, no fake smile. She glanced at her phone. Still no network. "Are you sure you can fix it?" she asked, trying to sound strong. "This is not a small car. Please, I don't want any more problems. If you spoil anything, it will be worse." The man nodded once. "I will not spoil anything," he said calmly. "Just open the bonnet for me." Sonia hesitated. Her heart beat a little faster. She looked at the gate. The security guard was not in sight. Maybe he had gone inside for a moment. The street was quiet. What harm can he do, she thought. I will stand here and watch him. If he tries anything funny, I'll scream. She took a deep breath and walked back to the driver's seat. She pulled the bonnet lever. The front of the SUV lifted with a soft click. When she came back around, the man was already there, lifting the bonnet fully with steady hands. He bent over the engine. At that moment, the story of their lives began to change. From the balcony of the mansion, high above the gate, Chief Desmond Adeyemi stepped out to answer a call. He was a tall, dark-skinned man in his early 60s with a trimmed grey beard and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Today he wore an expensive white agbada, the fabric flowing gently around him, and a red cap that showed his status clearly. "Just make sure the documents are ready before my flight," he said into his phone. "No mistakes. We are talking about millions here." He ended the call and slipped the phone into his pocket. That was when he looked down. His heart almost stopped. Right in front of his black gate, his daughter's black Range Rover was parked with the bonnet open, and bending over the engine with dirty clothes and wild hair was a stranger he had never seen before. A beggar. Desmond's jaw clenched. "Who on earth is that touching my car?" he whispered. He turned and rushed inside, walking quickly down the stairs, his agbada flowing behind him. Each step echoed his anger and fear. Was Sonia even safe? Why was she letting a man like that touch the SUV he had just bought for her? What would people say if they saw this? He pushed open the front door and stepped out toward the gate. Sonia was standing near the car, watching the man closely. Sweat rolled down her neck, but she did not look scared, just worried. "Daddy?" she called, surprised. "I didn't know you were home." Desmond did not answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the man under the bonnet. "Who is this?" he demanded. "Sonia, what is going on here? Why is this stranger touching your car?" Before Sonia could answer, the man straightened up. "I am done, sir," he said in a quiet voice. "You can start it now." Desmond stared at him. "That fast?" Sonia asked, blinking. The man stepped back from the car, wiping his hands on his torn shirt. There was no fear on his face. No shaking, no begging. Just quiet certainty. Sonia exchanged a quick look with her father, then hurried into the driver's seat. She turned the key. The engine roared back to life. The sound was smooth, strong, and perfect, as if nothing had ever been wrong. Sonia's eyes widened. "It's working," she gasped. "Daddy, it's really working." Desmond felt his anger pause, hanging in the air. He looked from the SUV to the beggar, to his daughter's happy face. The man had fixed it, just like that. Sonia jumped out of the SUV, still amazed. "Wow," she said softly, looking at the stranger. "I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. How much should I pay you?" She reached for her purse. Desmond lifted a hand sharply. "You don't need to pay him," he said, his voice firm. Sonia froze, confused. The beggar looked up slowly. Desmond stepped closer to Nelson, his eyes scanning the torn shirt, the dirty jeans, the strong hands, the tired eyes. "You don't need to pay him," Desmond repeated. "He doesn't deserve to be paid." Sonia's heart skipped. The beggar's jaw tightened, just a little. Desmond held his gaze, and then, in a low voice that made Sonia's heartbeat louder, he added, "Because he doesn't belong on the street as a beggar." He took a breath. "He deserves to be working for us." Sonia stared at her father in shock. The beggar's eyes flickered with confusion. Desmond turned to the man fully now. "What is your name?" he asked. The man swallowed. "Nelson, sir," he replied. Desmond nodded slowly, as if he had just made a decision that would change everything. "Nelson," he said, "follow me into the house. I want to talk to you. In my study." He turned and walked toward the mansion door without looking back. Sonia and Nelson exchanged a stunned look. Her father, cold, proud, and careful about everything, had just invited a dirty, homeless man into his private study. Why? What did he see in Nelson's eyes? And what story was Nelson carrying that could shake a billionaire's heart? As Nelson took his first step through the gate and into the mansion compound, he did not know that his whole life was about to turn. And he did not know that before the day ended, his story would make a billionaire cry. Nelson stepped through the tall black gate into Chief Desmond's mansion compound as if he were walking into another world. The ground beneath him suddenly felt too clean. The air smelled different, fresh, expensive, and quiet. He kept his eyes low, unsure if he was even allowed to look around. Sonia followed behind him, her Ankara dress brushing softly as she walked. She kept glancing at Nelson, wondering who he really was. A man fixing cars on the street was normal. A man fixing a Range Rover in 1 minute was not. Ahead of them, Chief Desmond walked with powerful, confident strides. His white agbada danced gently with each step. He didn't look back, yet he spoke firmly. "Nelson, don't be scared. I just want to understand you better." But Nelson was scared. He had not entered a mansion in years. He had not spoken to a man of so much power in even longer. And the last time he had stepped into an office as fancy as this, everything in his life burned after. When they reached the living room door, a housekeeper opened it quickly. The cold breeze from inside brushed Nelson's dusty skin and made him shiver. "Follow me," Chief Desmond said. He led Nelson up a short staircase and into a large private study. Inside the study was beautiful. Tall shelves filled with thick books lined the walls. A golden clock ticked softly on one side. A huge framed certificate hung above a polished wooden desk. Desmond Adeyemi, Businessman of the Year. Nelson stood near the door, afraid to move. The floor felt too smooth. His slippers were too thin, his shirt too torn. He didn't belong here. But Desmond pointed at a chair. "Sit." Nelson sat, not comfortably, just carefully, like the chair might reject him. Sonia stood near the door, still watching. She was curious, but also something about Nelson's quiet confidence earlier had stayed in her mind. Chief Desmond sat behind his desk, folding his hands on the polished surface. "Nelson," he began, "you fixed that engine with one look. That's not normal. How did you do it?" Nelson hesitated. "Sir, it's my work." "What work?" "Automotive engineering," Nelson said softly. Sonia's eyebrows lifted. Desmond leaned forward. Something sharp flashed in his eyes. "You are a mechanic?" "A master mechanic," Nelson corrected quietly. "Sir, I used to own one of the biggest automotive workshops in Surulere." The room froze. Sonia gasped. Chief Desmond blinked once. "You owned a workshop," he repeated. "A big one." Nelson nodded. "Yes, sir." "What happened to it?" Desmond asked. This time Nelson didn't answer immediately. His eyes fell to the floor. His fingers trembled just slightly. Sonia noticed. Desmond noticed too. The billionaire leaned back, his voice steady. "Nelson, tell me everything, from the beginning." Nelson took a deep breath. "Sir, I didn't grow up with much, but I loved machines. When I was young, I would sit with old mechanics for hours, learning how engines breathe." Sonia sat down slowly, drawn in. "I saved money from small jobs until I had enough to open a tiny workshop. People laughed at me at first. But as time passed, I became good. Too good. Cars that other mechanics gave up on, I brought them back to life." There was quiet pride in his voice. but also pain. I fixed a senator's Mercedes, then a governor's car. Soon rich people started coming to my workshop. I hired boys from the street and trained them. I opened 2 branches. I bought new equipment. I was growing. Sonia could almost see the old version of him, clean, confident, successful. Chief Desmond nodded slowly. He admired men who built from nothing. That was how he himself became a billionaire. But Nelson's voice cracked. And then, one night, everything changed. Sonia sat forward. Desmond's eyes narrowed. "Go on," he said. Nelson inhaled shakily. "There were people who didn't like my success," he said. "Big competitors, people who believed I was taking all their customers." He swallowed hard. "That night, someone poured fuel inside my workshop. They set everything on fire. Every car, over 50, all the documents, all the tools, the buildings. Everything burned." Sonia covered her mouth in shock. Desmond froze. Nelson continued, voice breaking. "By morning, I had nothing left." He clenched his fists. But that was not even the worst part. He looked up, and the pain in his eyes made Sonia's heart squeeze. "They arrested me. They said the fire was my fault. They said I neglected safety rules. They said I was trying to commit insurance fraud." Sonia gasped loudly. Her eyes were wet. "You? Fraud?" she whispered. "Why would they think that?" "Because I was growing too fast," Nelson whispered. "And some people wanted me gone." His voice dropped lower. "I stayed in jail for 5 years, 5 long years." Even Chief Desmond's heart jumped. "5 years," he repeated, "for something you didn't do?" Nelson nodded. "When I came out, nobody wanted to give me work. Nobody wanted me near their cars. People said I was cursed, troublemaker, failure, former prisoner." He looked down at his rough hands. "I became a beggar." Silence, a painful silence. Sonia wiped her face gently. Chief Desmond's hands shook slightly on the desk. His eyes glistened. But Nelson wasn't done. "Sir," he whispered, "I'm not on the street because I am lazy. I'm on the street because life locked every door I knocked on. I fix cars on the road now, just to eat." His voice cracked again. "And today, your daughter's car stopped in front of me. I only wanted to help. I didn't expect money. I didn't expect anything." He lifted his head slowly. "Sir, that is my story." The study stayed silent, completely silent. Then, a soft drop hit the wooden desk. Another. Another. Sonia's eyes widened. It was tears. Chief Desmond Adeyemi, the billionaire known across Lagos for his toughness, his pride, and his strength, was crying. Slow, heavy tears fell down his cheeks as he stared at Nelson. "5 years," he whispered. "5 years gone, because wicked people feared your success." Nelson looked away. "Yes, sir." Desmond wiped his eyes with his handkerchief, but more tears came. "This city is wicked," he muttered. "But God brought you to my gate for a reason." Nelson blinked, confused. Desmond stood up slowly. His voice shook, but his words were firm. "Nelson, look at me." Nelson looked up. "You are not a beggar," Desmond said. "You are a man who has suffered more than enough. A man who deserves a second chance." He took one step closer. "And I am going to give you that chance." Sonia gasped softly. Nelson froze. "Sir, I don't understand." Desmond pointed at him. "From today," he said, "you are the Adeyemi family's personal mechanic." Nelson's mouth fell open. Desmond continued before he could speak. "And that is just the beginning." Sonia stood up, shocked. Nelson shook his head in disbelief. "Sir, please, I don't deserve—" Desmond raised a hand. "You deserve far more than you think." He leaned forward, his eyes fierce with emotion. "I am going to open a brand new automotive workshop in your name, the biggest you have ever seen. You will run it. You will hire your own team. You will rebuild your life." Nelson could not breathe. He held the edge of the chair, afraid he might fall. "And one more thing," Desmond said softly. "You are no longer allowed to call yourself a beggar. Not under my watch." Tears rolled down Nelson's face. He couldn't stop them. Sonia covered her mouth again, her eyes shining. Desmond walked closer, placing a firm hand on Nelson's shoulder. "Your story is not over," he said. "It is just beginning." And that was the moment. The moment everything changed. For Nelson, for Sonia, and for the Adeyemi family. But none of them knew the twist that was coming next, a twist that would shake the entire household. The next morning in Lekki felt different. The sky was bright, the mansion compound was quiet, and for the first time in years, Nelson woke up with something he had forgotten how to feel. Hope. He couldn't sleep the night before, not after everything Chief Desmond told him. He spent hours sitting on the small bench outside the gatehouse where the guards arranged a place for him to rest. He stared at the sky, wondering if all of this was real or just another dream life would snatch away. But by sunrise, he knew the truth. His life had changed. Inside the mansion, Sonia came down the stairs dressed in a casual red top, jeans and sneakers. Her hair was in a simple ponytail, and she looked fresh, nothing like the stressed woman whose car died the day before. She kept glancing toward the window. She didn't want to admit it, but she was thinking about Nelson. His story had shaken her. His tears had stayed with her. And his strength, despite everything he went through, made her chest feel warm in a way she didn't understand yet. As she stepped outside, she saw him standing near the garage, looking completely lost. Nelson wore a clean white shirt one of the guards had given him and a pair of jeans that were slightly too big, but still neat. His hair was still rough, but he looked human again. "Good morning," Sonia said gently. Nelson blinked and quickly bowed his head. "Good morning, Ma. I didn't expect to see you this early." Sonia smiled. "After everything you did for me yesterday, I should be the one thanking you." He shook his head quickly. "You don't need to thank me, Ma." "I do," she insisted, "and please call me Sonia." He hesitated. "Okay. Sonia." She smiled again. Inside the house, someone was watching them through the upstairs window. Chief Desmond. He narrowed his eyes, not in anger, but in curiosity. He could see something forming between his daughter and this man, something he didn't fully understand yet, something he wasn't sure he was ready for, but he said nothing. Not yet. After breakfast, Desmond called Nelson into the garage. "Get in the car," he said. Nelson obeyed, confused. Sonia joined them in the back seat. They drove through the busy streets of Lagos until they reached a massive building surrounded by a wide parking lot. The sign outside read, "Adeyemi Auto Innovations, coming soon." Nelson's heart stopped. "Sir, what is this?" he whispered. Desmond smiled proudly. "This is your new workshop." Nelson felt his legs go weak. "This whole place?" he asked in disbelief. "Yes," Desmond replied. "You will run it. You will choose your team. I already hired architects. They will build it the way you like." Nelson couldn't speak. His throat tightened. His eyes filled again. Sonia placed her hand gently on his shoulder. He didn't know how to react. No woman had touched him with kindness in years. But that was not even the biggest shock. Desmond took out a file and handed it to him. "These documents make you the head engineer and manager of the entire facility." Nelson opened the file with shaking hands. His name was printed everywhere. Nelson Ifeanyi Okechukwu, head automotive engineer. His vision blurred. 5 years in prison, 5 years of begging, one broken car, one moment. And now this. Nelson dropped to his knees. "Sir, why me?" he whispered. "Why are you doing all of this for me?" Desmond knelt beside him, something nobody expected from a billionaire. "Because life tried to break you," he said, "but you didn't stay broken. That alone makes you a man worthy of a second chance." Nelson cried. Sonia cried too. People passing by stopped to watch, whispering, "Who is that man the billionaire is kneeling beside?" But none of that mattered. That moment was the beginning of everything. For the next few weeks, Nelson worked harder than anybody had ever seen. He arrived at the site early. He studied every architectural plan. He cleaned old tools. He taught himself new techniques online. He helped workers measure, build, paint, and install machines. Everyone was shocked at how much he knew. "You are not just a mechanic," one worker said. "You are a genius." But the best part? Sonia started visiting the workshop almost every day. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes she asked him to explain something about engines. Sometimes she simply sat beside him as he worked. Nelson tried to act normal, but every time she smiled, his heart trembled. She treated him like an equal, like a friend, like someone who mattered. One afternoon, Sonia arrived wearing a yellow dress, holding 2 plates of jollof rice. "You've been working since morning," she said. "Please eat something." Nelson wiped sweat from his forehead. "You don't have to keep bringing food," he said shyly. "But I want to," she replied. He looked at her closely. There was something warm in her eyes, something gentle, something dangerous, something he had not felt in years. Sonia took a bold step. "Nelson," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything," he replied. "Do you have someone? A girlfriend? A wife? Anyone waiting for you?" Nelson froze. "No," he said quietly. "I lost everything, including relationships. Nobody wants to stay with a man who sleeps outside." Sonia swallowed. What if someone sees you differently? What if someone believes in you? He looked at her confused. "Why would anyone believe in me?" Sonia stepped closer, too close. "Because I do." The air froze. Nelson's heart stopped. Before he could respond, a loud voice called from behind. "Sonia!" She jumped back immediately. Chief Desmond was standing there, watching them closely. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Come with me," he said to Sonia. "I need to speak with you." Sonia nodded and followed him quickly, but before she walked away, she turned back and met Nelson's eyes. A silent message passed between them. Something had started, something Chief Desmond had just noticed, something he was not ready for. Desmond waited until they were far from the workers before speaking. "Sonia," he said calmly, "tell me the truth. Are you getting close to that man?" Sonia's heart skipped. Daddy, he's a good person. You saw what he went through." "That's not what I asked." She took a breath. "I like talking to him," she said honestly, "and I care about him." Desmond's jaw tightened. "Sonia, listen to me. Nelson is a good man. I gave him a job. I gave him a workshop. I rescued him. But that does not mean—" "Daddy," she whispered, "that he is meant for you." Sonia stepped back, hurt. "Why not?" "Because you are my daughter, my only child, and I cannot allow you to get too close to someone whose past is still full of shadows. A man who suffered that much, carries scars you cannot see." Sonia looked away, tears building. "But Daddy—" "People can change." Desmond sighed deeply. "It's for your own good," he said. "Stay away from him. At least for now." He walked away, but Sonia stood still, breathing hard, her heart pounding. She knew her father's words came from love, but she also knew something else. She wasn't going to stop seeing Nelson. Not now, not after everything she had learned, not after the way he looked at her. And as she turned to stare at him from across the construction site, she felt something new rise inside her, something that would soon grow into love, something her father was right to fear, because their story was only just beginning. And a storm was coming, a storm none of them expected. The grand opening of Adeyemi Auto Innovations was just 2 weeks away, and Nelson worked harder than anyone in Lagos. From dawn till late night, he supervised painting, arranged new diagnostic machines, set up hydraulic lifts, and trained the young workers he had hired. Journalists were already talking about the new workshop. People on social media were asking, who is this Nelson that the billionaire is investing in? But behind all the excitement, a quiet fire was burning. A fire between Nelson and Sonia. They tried to act normal. They tried to stay professional. They tried to keep distance the way Chief Desmond wanted. But their hearts were moving closer every single day. And the day everything changed began like this. The day Sonia couldn't pretend anymore. The sun was just rising when Sonia walked into the workshop wearing jeans and a simple white shirt. Her ponytail bounced lightly behind her as she entered. Nelson was under a car lift, tightening bolts. He didn't hear her come in. "Good morning," she said softly. Nelson's head hit the metal above him. "Ouch!" Sonia burst into laughter. "Why do I always catch you by surprise?" Nelson rubbed his head, embarrassed. "Because I never expect someone like you to walk into a place like this." What do you mean, someone like me? She teased. Rich, important, beautiful. Sonia froze. Nelson realized what he had said and quickly looked away. I mean, well, I didn't mean. Sonia stepped closer. It's okay, she whispered. I know what you meant. They stared at each other for a moment that felt too long. Then the workshop entrance suddenly opened. Sonia! They both turned sharply. It was Chief Desmond, and he did not look happy. Desmond walked straight toward his daughter, ignoring Nelson. Sonia, I thought you were going to your charity event, he said. What are you doing here? I just came to check on the progress, Sonia said calmly. Progress? Desmond repeated. This is not your business. This is Nelson's. His tone was sharp, too sharp. Nelson stepped back quietly. Sonia frowned. Daddy, why are you talking like this? Sonia, Desmond cut in, come outside. Now. Sonia followed him out reluctantly. When the door closed, Desmond finally spoke the words he had been holding inside. You are getting close to him, he said quietly. Too close. So what if I am? Sonia asked, her voice shaking with anger and confusion. Nelson is a good man. That is not the point, Desmond snapped. You are my daughter. I have to protect you. From what? Sonia demanded. Desmond looked away, battling emotions he didn't want to show. Sonia, Nelson is still rebuilding his life. He has nothing, no background, no stability, no family, no security. And your future, your world, is far more delicate than you think. Sonia shook her head. You don't know him, Daddy, not like I do. Desmond's face hardened. I know enough. And I know this. Falling in love with a man who just came out of the street is dangerous. For him. For you. For all of us. A painful silence followed. But then Sonia whispered, I think you're afraid of something else. Something you're not telling me. Desmond froze. He looked away again. That was when Sonia realized her father's fear wasn't just about love. It was about something deeper, something hidden. Something about Nelson's past. But she didn't know what. Not yet. 2 days later, the workers were busy installing new equipment when Sonia arrived again, this time holding a small white envelope. Nelson, she called from the entrance. He stepped out from behind a stack of new tires, surprised. What is it? She smiled nervously and held up the envelope. I want you to come with me tonight, to a gala. Nelson nearly dropped the wrench he was holding. A gala? He repeated. Me? No, Sonia, I can't. Yes, you can, she said firmly. It's a charity event. I want you there. But I don't have clothes. And I'm not your type of. You're exactly the person I want there, she said softly. Their eyes met again. The moment was deep and real. But then, a tall man in a sharp blue suit walked into the workshop. His presence was loud, confident and arrogant. Sonia stiffened. Nelson frowned. The man walked up to Sonia with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sonia, he said smoothly, your father told me I would find you here. Nelson stepped back quietly. Sonia's face tightened. Hello, Kelvin. Kelvin Cole, her childhood friend, a rich man from a powerful family. Someone who had been trying to get close to Sonia for years. Kelvin glanced at Nelson, smirking. Is this the mechanic your father has been talking about? Sonia's jaw clenched. His name is Nelson. Kelvin ignored her. He walked toward Nelson slowly, looking at him the way someone might look at an insect. So, you fix cars, right? Kelvin asked mockingly. Nelson didn't respond. I heard the billionaire picked you from the street, Kelvin continued. Interesting. I didn't know charity work could go this far. Sonia stepped forward angrily. Kelvin, that's enough. But Kelvin continued, pretending not to hear her. He pointed at a nearby luxury sedan. Tell you what, why don't you fix that? Or is it too expensive for your level? Nelson's face remained calm. Sonia looked like she was about to snap. Then, Kelvin, a deep voice echoed from behind. Everyone turned. It was Chief Desmond, and he was furious. What do you think you're doing? Desmond demanded. Kelvin straightened. Sir, I was only. Get out, Desmond said sharply. Kelvin blinked, shocked. But sir, I said get out. Kelvin glanced at Sonia one last time, his face turning cold. "This isn't over," he muttered. Then he walked out. Sonia stared at her father in disbelief. Nelson stood frozen, still trying to understand what just happened. But something had changed. Something broke in Desmond's expression, and something cracked open in Nelson's fate. Because when Kelvin left, Desmond turned to Sonia and said, "You are not going anywhere with him tonight. And you," he pointed at Nelson, "must stay away from my daughter." Sonia gasped. Nelson stepped back, confused and hurt. But Desmond wasn't done. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a tone that carried pain and fear. "There is something you don't know about this man," he told Sonia, "something that can destroy everything." Sonia's heart dropped. "What are you talking about?" Desmond took a deep breath, looked at Nelson, and whispered the words that shook the entire workshop. "Nelson is not who you think he is." The workers froze. Sonia froze. Nelson froze. "What does that mean?" Sonia whispered. Desmond looked at her with sad, heavy eyes. "It means," he said slowly, "I know the real reason he was sent to prison." Nelson's entire body stiffened. A deep shadow crossed his face, and for the first time, Sonia felt fear. Not of Nelson, but of the truth her father was about to reveal. The workshop fell into a deep, cold silence. Workers stopped moving, tools stopped clinking. Even the hum of the new generators seemed to fade. Nelson stood completely still. Sonia's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at her father. "Daddy," she whispered, "what do you mean by he is not who we think he is?" Desmond swallowed, then looked at Nelson with eyes filled with sorrow, not anger. "Nelson," he said gently, "you need to tell her. You need to tell both of us. The part of your story you left out." Every muscle in Nelson's body tightened. His hands shook slightly at his sides. "I already told you everything," he said quietly, avoiding Sonia's eyes. Desmond crossed his arms. "No," he said, "you told us how your workshop burned, how you were blamed, how you suffered. But you didn't tell us why someone would go that far to destroy you." Sonia's breath hitched. "Daddy, stop scaring me. What happened?" Nelson finally looked up. His eyes were darker, heavier, filled with memories he wished he could bury forever. "Sonia," he whispered, "some truths are too painful to bring back." She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Tell me. Please. I deserve to know." Nelson closed his eyes. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he inhaled slowly. And the truth began to pour out. "When my workshop became successful," Nelson said softly, "I started attracting powerful customers, people with big names. But I also started discovering things I wasn't supposed to see." Sonia frowned. Desmond leaned forward. "What things?" he asked. Nelson hesitated, then continued. "There was a certain group of businessmen. They brought cars to me, cars with strange modifications, things that didn't make sense, hidden compartments, secret trackers, illegal parts imported without papers." Sonia's eyes widened. "Daddy, that sounds like—" "Yes," Desmond said, "money laundering, smuggling, corruption." Nelson nodded. "I didn't want to be involved. I warned them. I told them I wouldn't allow my workshop to be used for anything illegal." He looked away, pained. "That's when everything changed. They threatened me. They tried to bribe me. And when I refused," he swallowed, "they destroyed everything I built." Sonia gasped. "Daddy, are you hearing this?" Desmond nodded slowly. The puzzle pieces were coming together. "They burned your workshop," he said, "because you became a threat." Nelson nodded again. "And then," he added, "they bribed the police to arrest me. They framed me. They made sure nobody would believe my side of the story." Sonia felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "Why didn't you say this earlier?" she whispered. Nelson's voice cracked. "Because the people involved are still powerful, and I didn't want to bring danger to your family." Sonia's hand flew to her mouth. "Danger?" Desmond stepped back, shaking his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "Not again." Nelson looked up sharply. "Again? Sir, what do you mean?" Desmond raised his hand. "I know the kind of men who did this to you," he said softly. "I've dealt with their type before. Men who believe they own Lagos. Men who will do anything to stay on top. Sonia looked between both men, confused and scared. "But Daddy, what does this mean for Nelson?" Desmond turned to her. "It means your feelings for him, your closeness, puts him in more danger than he already is." Nelson froze. Sonia froze. "What?" she whispered. Desmond took a shaky breath. "Sonia, listen. If these men find out that Nelson now works for me, that he is close to you, they will think he returned with power. They will think he's coming for revenge. They will come after him harder than before." Nelson clenched his fists. "I don't care about myself," he said. "I can handle danger. I've lived in it for years. But Sonia, if they use her to get to me—" "Stop," she cried, grabbing his hand. "Don't even say that." Desmond closed his eyes. "This is why I wanted distance between you two. Not because Nelson is not good enough, but because loving him comes with risks." Sonia trembled. "But Daddy, I love him." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Nelson froze. Desmond froze. Everyone froze. "You—" "What?" Nelson whispered. Sonia stepped closer, tears falling freely now. "I love you, Nelson. I don't care about the past. I don't care about the risks. I don't care if you lost everything. You never lost who you are." Nelson's lips parted, but no words came out. Desmond wiped a tear quickly from the corner of his eye. "And Nelson," Sonia said softly, her voice trembling, "I know you feel something for me too." Nelson swallowed hard. "Sonia, I do. I tried to stop it. I tried to ignore it. But I love you too." She broke into tears and hugged him tightly. Nelson wrapped his arms around her, shaking, overwhelmed and finally free. Desmond stared at them. Then he took a deep breath and smiled, a real, soft, emotional smile. "I cannot fight love," he said quietly, "not when it is this strong." Sonia looked up, shocked. Nelson too. "But," Desmond added, raising a finger, "I can protect it." Months passed. Nelson's new workshop opened. Customers flooded in. Journalists interviewed him. People called him the comeback king. He moved into a new mansion. He bought a new car. He rebuilt his life piece by piece. And Sonia was by his side for every step. They attended dinner events. They went to charity galas. They visited orphanages. They laughed, planned, dreamed. Desmond watched quietly from the background, proud. Then, one beautiful evening, 5 months after everything began, Nelson invited Sonia to a rooftop restaurant overlooking all of Lagos. Soft lights glowed, music played gently, the breeze was cool and sweet. Sonia sat down, smiling. "What's this about?" she asked. Nelson stood up slowly. Her smile faded. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box, and went down on one knee. Sonia covered her mouth instantly. People around them gasped. "Sonia Adeyemi," Nelson said, his voice shaking softly. "5 months ago, I fixed your car without knowing it would fix my life too." Tears rolled down Sonia's face. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me a reason to wake up again. You gave me love I thought I would never have." He opened the box. A shining diamond ring sparkled inside. "With all my heart," he whispered. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Sonia burst into tears. "Yes," she cried. "Yes, Nelson. Yes." People clapped. Lights flickered. The world felt perfect. And watching nearby, Chief Desmond wiped his eyes quietly. He had lost so much in life, but seeing his daughter find love, pure, real love, filled all the empty spaces in his heart. The wedding was like something Nigeria had never seen before. Celebrities attended. Politicians came. Business moguls filled the seats. Newspapers wrote headlines like, "The beggar who became a billionaire's son-in-law." Sonia walked down the aisle wearing a glowing white gown. Her father held her hand tightly, whispering, "Your mother would be proud." Nelson stood at the altar in a sharp black suit, tears already in his eyes. When Desmond placed Sonia's hand in Nelson's, he said softly, "Take care of her, and thank you for proving that goodness still exists." The crowd cried. Even the pastor wiped his eyes. Then Nelson took the microphone. His voice shook as he spoke. "5 years ago," he began, "I slept outside on cold ground. People crossed the street to avoid me. Life broke me in ways I cannot explain. Sonia held his hand, but one simple act of kindness, one car breakdown, one chance, changed everything. He looked into Sonia's eyes, and today, I'm marrying the woman whose heart saved me. The entire hall erupted in tears, applause, and joy. And so, his story began again. Nelson didn't just rebuild his life, he rebuilt his future. He opened more workshops. He hired former prisoners and street boys. He trained hundreds of young people. He became a symbol of hope in Lagos. And every night when he came home, Sonia was waiting, warm, smiling, loving. Their journey wasn't perfect. They still faced challenges. But they faced them together, from a roadside beggar to a family man, from a man broken by life to a man rebuilt by love. And it all began with a broken car in front of a black gate in Lekki. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.